If you're anything like me, the idea of searching for literature for a new project is really daunting. You've got all of this material that you know you're going to have to find somewhere, but you're not quite sure what it is, you're not quite sure how to search for it, and you're not quite sure how all of that is going to turn itself into a project or a literature review. And oftentimes we start with Google Scholar or we start with our university library systems. And whilst both of those systems are great in some regard, they work best when we really know what we're looking for, when we've got our clear search terms or keywords, or when we know a specific article or author that we're trying to find. But what happens when you don't know that? What happens if you're just trying to be really creative and try and get an understanding of how the world works in the particular project that you're doing or the particular body of literature that you're looking at? And what I'm going to give you is 3 tips that I have discovered over the course of the last decade. And these are the 3 things that I use all the time when I'm writing and all the time when I'm doing literature searching. And it makes your life so much easier in 3 simple steps. Let's get going. The first one I'm simply going to refer to as the PDF trick. And this is a way of finding loads of literature very quickly, very easily, and you only need to use Google. This is how I find probably 98% of all of the literature that I would ever use on any project. It's an amazingly creative way of finding literature that you wouldn't actually have thought of otherwise. So what you're going to do is you're just going to go straight to Google, not Google Scholar, straight to normal old Google. And let's assume that your project is on virtual organizations. So what you might do if you're first just sort of dipping your toe in is you might just type in virtual organizations to the search bar. And you'd get something that looks a bit like this. Not particularly useful. A lot of those sources, if we're looking at Wikipedia or any of those sort of generic business websites, they're not really going to be academic sources. They're not going to give us a lot that is going to be of much value to our project. So what I want you to do is I'd like you to now type in PDF after your key search term or keyword. So let's try virtual organizations PDF. Now that looks much better, doesn't it? Because what Google is searching for us now is only things that are PDFs. Now they are not all inherently going to be academic sources, but the chances of them being is much, much higher. And as you'll notice there, we're being sent things through directly from journals. We've got things from ResearchGate or academia.edu, lots of other sources that we wouldn't necessarily have found otherwise. So it's a really useful way of just refining what Google is going to send back to you. And there's one extra thing that I'm going to suggest to you that you can add into that search term to get you even more good results. Okay, so you know about the PDF trick now. You use your search term, your keyword, and you add PDF to the end of it, and then you're going to get back much more in terms of academic content. But I'd like to add one more suggestion for that for you. And that is when you're at the start of a project, it can be really useful, rather than just trying to dig around in the scraps of literature, it can be really useful to read other people's literature reviews about the topics. So what this does is it gives you a sense of what the field already looks like. It gives you a sense of what people have studied before or what people are coming up against. It gives you an idea of how people have mapped out the field in advance of you. And you might agree with them, you might disagree with them, you might be wanting to expand on their thoughts. They might be providing or suggesting particular gaps in knowledge that you want to build on. Fantastic. But they are such a lovely place to start for mapping out your ideas. So if you want to get even more results in that early stage, then use your key search terms, then type in literature review and then PDF. And this will be a much narrower field, so you might need to play around with those search terms a bit more. But if you can find those early literature reviews through just your Google search with the PDF, you're going to be laughing and it's going to make your first steps into your new project so easy. And the final point is about using Google Scholar. And these are two little extras that a lot of people don't seem to know about or don't seem to really use. So we might use Google Scholar to search for particular papers or search for specific areas or books or chapters, but we can actually use it as a more advanced search tool as well. And the first thing is to use the cited by button, which is just here. And what that means, if you're searching for a particular article, or if you found a particular article that's really useful, really seminal, is the one that you're using in all of your texts, and you really want to make sure that that piece is heard, but you want to listen to what other people have said about it. If you click that cited by button, it will tell you everybody who has cited that article directly afterwards. And that might be 1,000, or it might be 10, or it might be 1, or it might be 500. But it will tell you everybody who's found that article useful before. And this is another lovely list to be able to just work through and see, have other people been doing similar work to this paper that you really like? And that can be a really nice flex if you're looking for articles that are similar to things that you've already covered on your module. Maybe there's a paper you looked at in a seminar. Okay, well, who else has cited that in the future? And what that will do is it will give you a much more contemporary understanding of that paper that you're looking at. So the cited by button is fantastic. And you can also click next to that for the related searches. And this is where Google Scholar will give you a very nice, very clear algorithm to say, if you liked this, you'll probably like this as well. And again, as with all of these things, all of them are imperfect. They're not going to give you exactly the results you need straight away. They might do, but they probably won't. But it just increases the chance of you getting that bolt of lightning and coming down and saying, that is the one that I want. So there we have it, a few quick, easy wins for finding literature very easily, using your PDF trick, searching for other literature reviews, and using those little advanced tabs on Google Scholar to make it quick, easy, and efficient to gather that literature. I hope you found that useful, and if so, please remember to subscribe to the channel, to like this, drop us a comment below. It's always lovely to hear from you, and look forward to giving you more academic hints, tips, and tricks to make your university experience so much easier next time.